So good evening and hello everyone. Thank you all for joining this today's webinar. I really appreciate everyone who is here, whether you are joining us from here from India or from somewhere else around the world. So welcome you all. My name is Satyam Shukla and I'm senior member of technical staff at SecOps Solution. I primarily work on our patch management and vulnerability management platform. So today's session is just based not only about the product itself, but also on the real world challenges that we have seen organizations face across the globe while managing their vulnerabilities and patches. So today's webinar is focused on the live vulnerability detection and remediation using an agentless approach. Okay. So over the next 45 to 60 minutes, we'll discuss why patch management actually continues to be a challenge for many organizations across the globe and how agentless patching, could simplify operations and how can you discover vulnerabilities, how you can identify missing patches, and you can remediate those security issues efficiently using our product across different operating systems and devices. So having said that, let me just give you a quick introduction about the product. So SecOps Solution is a cybersecurity product company. The product primarily focuses on IT infra devices. So these devices are primarily your laptops, workstations, desktops, servers in cloud or in on-premise environments, as well as in air-gapped networks, as well as network devices like routers, firewalls, switches, and other devices. So for these sort of IT devices, we have products in three different domains. We have a product that does vulnerability management. We have a product that does configuration audit, and we have a product that does patch management. So to quickly give you a brief context regarding these three products. So our vulnerability management product essentially helps you to find out security vulnerabilities, misconfigurations across your laptops, desktops, network devices. So the product helps you to scan these devices and get the security issues with respect to your systems and known vulnerabilities that are sitting on your systems. So vulnerability management essentially helps you with that. Then we have a product that does configuration audit. So the configuration audit product essentially helps you to perform baseline audits on your systems for identifying misconfigurations, right? And this also helps you to perform audits based on global benchmarks like CIS, NIST, BISA, and others. Besides that, if let's say you want to create your own audit profile and based on that you want to use that as a benchmark to assess your systems for misconfigurations, you can do that too on the product. Now, having a vulnerability management solution and a configuration audit solution is great, right? You get the visibility into what security issues, what misconfigurations are there on your systems, right? But having these products doesn't make your organization more secure because essentially for making your organization's IT security, strengthening the IT security means you'll have to fix these security issues and misconfigurations that you're getting from such products, right? And that's where the patch management solution is actually placed very well. So our patch management solution can help you to remediate all of these security vulnerabilities and misconfigurations that you have found across your devices, right? So using the patch management solution, you can deploy OS patches, you can deploy more than 3,000 known third-party application patches as well across different operating systems, be it Windows systems, Linux systems, or Mac, right? And more importantly, the biggest USP of the product is it can do all of these patch management and remediation activities in an agentless approach. So SecOps is currently one of the only vendors that is there in this market that offers agentless patch management, vulnerability management, and configuration audit. So that's one of the biggest USPs of the product, right? So having said that, let me just give you a quick walkthrough of the entire product so that we can quickly see how you can onboard your devices on the product, how easy it is to onboard your devices, how you can then move forward to scanning those devices, getting vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and how you can eventually fix them to make your systems more secure. So this is the overall product dashboard that gives you insights regarding your systems that are onboarded and their distribution with respect to different operating systems, be it Windows, be it Linux flavors, different Linux flavors, be it Mac devices, and of course your overall software inventory. Asset connectivity status, so the device status, whether these devices are online, whether they are offline, right? Overall infra risk index. So this essentially indicates the current security posture of your entire infrastructure. So the lower the score is, the more secure your overall infra is. If let's say due to certain security issues, misconfigurations that we have identified across your systems, the overall infrastructure risk score increases. It typically indicates that your infra is at risk, and you should take some measures to mitigate those security issues to make your infra more secure. Overall asset compliance status based on different SLAs, different policies that you create on the product. So, for an example, you can create an SLA on the product stating that, let's say, all my critical vulnerabilities must be resolved within 15 days. Now, let's say there's a device that is not meeting this SLA, right? That's violating the SLA that you have set. So you'll be able to quickly identify such devices, and you can export a report, and of course, you can go ahead and fix those devices using the patch management solution. Similarly, policy-based compliances is also available. So let's say if you have created a policy for patching all browsers. Now let's say if there are certain devices on which browsers are still not patched, right? You'll be able to quickly identify such devices from here. Overall patch analysis, right? So what operating system patches, what application patches are missing on your systems, and their distribution with respect to different criticality levels as well, right? So what critical OS patches are missing on your systems, what critical or high rated application patches are missing on your systems. And on the similar lines, we have vulnerability analysis as well. So this essentially indicates what security issues have we identified across your systems and their distribution with respect to criticality levels. So critical security issues, high rated issues that we have found on your systems, right? At any point of time, if you want to get more data regarding any of these data points, you can simply click over here on any of the data segments, and you can get more information, and you can export a report as well for that specific segment. Moving forward to patch management trends. So this essentially indicates the overall patch management related operations you've been carried out, your team is carrying out in your organization. So essentially gives you trends and insights regarding that, right? So let's say if you want to get a monthly view or a quarterly view to check how's the overall patch management operation going on with respect to last quarter, right? You can get those insights from here. Similarly, you can get trends and insights regarding different vulnerabilities and from when these vulnerabilities are sitting on your systems and when they were patched, right? So trends regarding your security issues and vulnerabilities are also provided over here. Now, moving forward, let's quickly see how you can onboard your devices on the product and how you can start managing them, right? So asset section essentially helps you to onboard your devices and get an overall asset inventory and manage your devices effectively. So to quickly onboard a device, you can simply click on add asset. So we have two options over here, agentless and agent based. So as I've mentioned earlier, agentless patch management and vulnerability management is one of the biggest USPs of the product. So to onboard your devices in an agentless approach, select the type of product that you want to use for this device. Let's go for both for now. And here is where you can essentially specify what devices you want to onboard. So you can provide their IP addresses, right? For example, or even if you want to give a CIDR range, for an example, you can give that, or IP range or FQDN or domain name. So whatever parameters you want to give for your device, you can give it over here, and our products would be able to discover that device and connect to it and onboard it for you, so that you can start performing scans and patch deployment operations from there, right? And also you can create multiple groups. So these are the default groups that you already get. But let's say, for example, you have multiple sites to manage, for an example, and you want to create and add the devices in that specific group. You can also create your own groups and accordingly manage your devices. Here is where you can add the credentials for your devices, for Windows devices, Linux devices, on Mac. And just click on add asset to onboard all of these devices using a discovery scan. So it's actually very simple to onboard these devices. in an agentless approach, right? And now coming to agent-based approach, so let's say if you have users that are operating from different networks, right? Some of them are working from home, so you can't set up an agentless approach because they're not in a common or a corporate network, to be precise, right? So for them, what you can do is you can go with agent-based approach. So in this approach, you get a lightweight client that you can install across all your laptops and systems, and by that you can start performing, vulnerability management, patch management, and auditing related activities right on the product. And this agent is quite lightweight in nature. So, for example, if let's say there's no scan or no activity that is being performed, right? So the resource utilization would be about zero point 0.1 to 0.5% of your overall CPU and RAM resources that are available. And let's say if let's say a patch deployment or some sort of an operation is going on that device, the resource utilization can go up to zero point 0.5 or at max 1% of your available resources on that system. So this is very lightweight, agent or client that you can mass install across your systems. And there are multiple policies available for bulk deployment also. For example, if you want to use our Active Directory integration directly with your AD setup, so you can use that. Or else if you want to use any other bulk deployment tool, for an example, if you want to use Intune, or if you want to use Active Directory group policy, or if you want to use any other third party software deployment or management solution, you can use that to deploy these agents across all your systems. So we have policies for all of these created already. So these are the devices that are already onboarded for this particular, infra and network. Now, for any of these devices, if you want to get further more information, you can simply click over here and click on View Asset Details. We also have remote access feature that allows you to, securely access these systems, take an access to these systems of your organization. And let's say if you want to, troubleshoot something, if you want to run some sort of steps to identify or fix some issues, you can do that. If you want to download or upload files on that system, you can do that too. And you also get audit logs and session recording for these sessions, remote access sessions that you take. So this option is also available for IT admins. Yeah. Now, let's say for this device, let's say if you want to get further more details, so I'll quickly click on that. So these in the overview section, you can essentially get details regarding that host itself. So system level details like the host name, the operating system, OS build, CPU, RAM, serial number, disk, list of all the network interfaces that are configured on that system, right? Connectivity status, its policy compliance status, whether it is compliant or non-compliant with the policy that you have created. It's vulnerability analysis. So what are the number of security issues that we have found on this particular device and its distribution, and number of patches that are missing on this particular device, and the patch, severe rated distribution as well. So critical patches that are missing, high rated patches that are missing, and so on. So overview section would essentially give you details regarding your device, including its metadata, network interfaces, vulnerability, and patch analysis. Moving forward to software section. So this essentially is software inventory of this particular device presented to you over here. So this will give you details regarding what applications or softwares are installed, the corresponding version that is installed, vendor related details, as well as installation date related details would be provided, right? So if you quickly want to check if this device, let's say, has Google Chrome installed, right? So you can simply search over here and you can get those details as well. Coming to patches. So patches section essentially indicates or gives you a visibility into what patches are missing on this particular device. What are the ones that you have already deployed on this device? So let's say if you quickly want to have a view of patches that are already deployed in past for this particular device, you can get that list and details of those patches as well. And let's say if you want to focus on the missing patches ones, right, the ones that are still missing on this particular device, you can get the list of these patches as well, right? So it has both OS and third-party application patches missing, right? Now, for any of these patches, if you want to get further more information, right, for example, the security update, simply click on this and you'll be able to get details regarding the patch. So what the title is, its KB number, what is the category of this particular patch, right? Its payload size, whether this will prompt for a reboot or not, right? The description of what the patch exactly is, and more importantly, the list of all the security vulnerabilities that would be fixed once you deploy this patch on your system. So let's say if you go ahead and deploy this patch on your system, this will fix about 60 vulnerabilities on your system in one go, right? So a single patch deployment would fix about 60 vulnerabilities on your system just when you deploy this patch on your system. So that visibility is also provided by the product. Now coming to vulnerabilities, so this section would give you details regarding what vulnerabilities are still present on your systems, right? And details regarding those vulnerabilities as well. For example, let's say if you want to check what this vulnerability exactly is, you can simply click over here. So this is a vulnerability that is affecting VLC media player that is installed on your system, on this particular system, on this location, right? So evidence is also provided over here. Now let's say if you want to fix this particular vulnerability, you can use the remediations provided over here. So you need to update this application to this version or later to fix this particular vulnerability, right? And of course, details regarding the vulnerability, including summary of what this vulnerability exactly is. Now, this one already has an exploit, right? So exploits, references, CVS score, CPR rating, and other details as well. Coming to configurations, so these are the misconfigurations that we have identified on your system, right? So you can get those details also from here. For example, if you want to quickly check any of these configuration misconfigurations that we have identified, you can simply click over here, get further details regarding that particular standard against which this check was performed, the profile against which this control or check comes as a part of, and further details regarding the check, the summary of what the check exactly is. If let's say you do not fix this particular misconfiguration, what could be its impact? And more importantly, how do you fix it, right? So the solution or remediation step is also given over here. So that's a quick overview of the sort of visibility that you can get for a specific device on the product. Now, let me quickly show you how you can start, deploying these patches from the product in the using the patch management module. All right, so this is the patch management product. So that essentially helps you with all the patch management related operations, be it scanning, be it patch deployment, be it analysis, be it approvals, tracking, reports. All of these patch management related operations can be performed right from here. Now, coming to patch deployment, so we have both the methods. If you want to deploy patches on demand by selecting couple of patches, couple of devices, you can use asset patch. Here you can select your devices, post that, select your patches, and simply deploy that patch on your system, right? But you can also create policies to automate this entire process of patch deployment. Let me quickly show you how you can create one. So to create a patch policy, simply come over here and click on Add Policy. Let's say if I want to create a policy for deploying critical OS patches on, let's say, test environment. So I can create a policy for that, right? Now here is where you can target your devices. Let's say if you want to target all your devices, simply use this option to target all your devices, or else you can add rules to target your devices. So you can select a couple of parameters. For example, if let's say IP addresses is equal or is starting with this, so target all those devices. Or let's say with host names, with asset name, operating system, all Windows 7 systems, something like that, or you can use asset groups, which is a better way to target your devices. For example, with this I want to target all my endpoints and my development devices. I can actually select that group, and I can deploy patches on the devices in this group. So accordingly, you can target your devices. If you want to exclude certain devices, you can simply exclude it right from here, right? Let's say if you want to exclude a critical server or your CISO's or CTO's laptop, right, a critical device, you can do that exclusion right from here. Coming to package targeting. So here is where you can target your patches. Now these are the patches that will be deployed on these devices that you have selected. So the default option is patch all. Now, if this option is selected, this will essentially deploy all missing OS and application patches on your system. So essentially, any patch is missing that would be deployed via this policy on the selected devices. Or else, if you want to narrow down the scope of patches, you can use advanced patch policy for that case, right? So here is where you can use multiple options, multiple filters. For example, I just want to deploy critical and high rated patches, nothing else. I just want to deploy OS patches, or I just want to deploy third party patches, or let's say both. So I can use that toggle. And let's say if I want to provide specific filters, for example, I just want to, you know, patch Firefox for an example. So I can simply select applications also or packages also that I want to patch or I want to deploy. Right. Now, some of these OS patches might prompt you for a reboot. So here is where you can configure your overall, reboot configuration as well. So we have a couple of options. No reboot essentially would just deploy this patch on the system, and even if a reboot is required, it will skip that reboot operation on the end device. So if you want to, want the end users to handle the reboot operation, you can go with no reboot option. We also have scheduled reboot. So scheduled reboot essentially helps you to schedule that reboot operation on certain reboot windows, right? So you can do that too. We also have graceful reboot option. So graceful reboot option allows you to give a customized notification message. For example, let's say this is the message that I want to give to my end users. So I can type in the message, and this notification message would be displayed at the top right corner of the end systems where, to the end systems where the reboot is required actually, right? And if the user is working on some important task, let's say he wants to uh, delay the reboot for 1 hour or 2 hours because he is on a call, for an example. So he can do that. He can also delay the reboot operation, right? And the maximum number of times that this user is allowed to delay or defer the reboot can be controlled from here. For example, I want my users to delay 3 times, but after that, the reboot should happen. So I can set the max allowed deference over here. And the delay options that should be available or should be visible in that notification to my users can be controlled from here. For example, I also want to give 4 hours as a delay option. I can give that, right? We also have a retry window. So let's say if some of your employees are or some of your users are, let's say, uh, are on leave for today and tomorrow, and let's say if you have set the retry window to, let's say, 4 days, once these users come back online after 1 or 2 days, as soon as they come back online, the patch would be deployed automatically on these devices. So essentially, reboot window allows you to make sure that any device that is not online as of now, but when it comes back online within the this defined window, it gets patched automatically. You also have approval options. So let's say if you want to deploy all non-declined patches, you can go with this option. Or if you only want to deploy approved patches only, right? You want to go ahead with an approval, proper approval mechanism, you can use this option as well. And lastly, using the schedule, you can schedule this, policy to run on a recurring basis. For example, on a daily basis, weekly basis, or monthly, or a custom recurrence. For an example, let's say I want to deploy patches on Mondays and Tuesdays of every week, right? So I can do that as well. Now, once this policy is created, this will target all my development devices for critical and high rated OS and application patches. If any critical and high rated patches are missing, this will deploy those patches on those devices and will share the results with you. Right. So in this way, you can create patch policies that can automate your overall patch deployment and remediation workflows on the product. Now, to track these deployments, these jobs that you have created, you can simply come here in jobs, and here is where you can see the jobs that were created or deployed. And when you want to see the details regarding what devices were included as part of that deployment job, you can get those details right over here. And for any of these devices, if you want to get further information regarding what patches were actually deployed on this particular device, right, in this job that was created, so you can get visibility to that as well. So a couple of OS patches were deployed, couple of application patches were deployed, right? And for any specific patch, for example, this one, if you want to get further more information or get you want to get, let's say, real-time visibility into the deployment progress, right? Here is where you'll be able to get the real-time visibility into your deployment as well, right? So it typically goes through several phases. Initiation, where it checks for prerequisites, then it downloads the patch payload on your device. Post successful download, it performs integrity check to ensure that this is the actual file that is downloaded from the respective vendor and it's not modified. If all the checks are met, that only then only this will go ahead and deploy that patch on your system. And post that, it goes ahead and validates that patch for you. Right, post the application phase, there's a separate validation phase that kicks in, and this will revalidate the entire patch deployment for you, so that you as an IT admin you can be sure that this patch actually got deployed on that end device successfully and the device itself is stable, right, after the deployment. And at any stage, let's say the deployment fails, here the remarks will give you detailed logs and evidences and insights regarding at what stage the deployment has failed and due to what reasons it has failed. So remarks will also give you those details as well. And let's say post this patch deployment, your device is facing some issues, right? Some of the services are not working properly or something like that. If you want to roll back these patches, rollback option is also supported by the product. So you can simply select that patch and click on rollback to roll back that patch from the end device. Now coming to approval options. So we have an enterprise level patch approval mechanism in place. So let's say for any specific patch, you want to test it in your staging environment, and then you want to approve it with certain comments, or you want to decline it, or you want to reset the status. You can use this to get details as well as to approve and decline patches based on your requirements. Coming to global patches. So global patches essentially gives you a global view for all your patches across all your systems, right? So be it the patches that are already deployed, be it the ones that are still missing on your systems, you can get a quick insight regarding those patches, right? If you want to get the list of the ones that are already deployed in last, let's say 30 days, you can simply use these filters to get to those options. And for any specific patch, if you want to get further details as well, for example, you want to get more details regarding this Firefox patch, right? You can click on this record, and you'll be able to get further more details regarding this Firefox patch as well. Now we also have filters over here that allows you to narrow down this global scope to your preference and analyze it further, right? For example, if you want to just narrow down the scope to a certain device or a group or a couple of devices, you can use a set filter for that. If you want to just narrow down the scope of analysis to a group or a couple of groups, you can narrow down the scope to groups also. You have operating system, you have status, whether the path is already deployed or is it still missing, or based on application names, severity levels, just show me critical patches, for an example, right? So all of these options are available over here. You can use these filter options to narrow down the scope of analysis and analyze it on the product itself. Or else, if you want to quickly export this as a report, you can click on the export button and you can get it as a report as well. So that's a quick view of overall, the patch management product. Besides the things that I've already shown you, the patch management product is also capable enough to upgrade your operating systems from, let's say, Windows 11 to Windows 12, sorry, 10 to 11. Or let's say if you want to, deploy certain software, so software deployment is also available uh, with the patch management product. And let's say if you want to deploy some bash scripts or PowerShell scripts to fix some misconfigurations, for an example. So you can do that too using, script deployment policies that are available. Now, having said that, let's quickly see the vulnerability management module and how you can perform, vulnerability assessments across your systems, and you can get those results from the product. So to start the scan, you can click on Start Scan button. Here is where you can target your devices. Again, the same thing. If you want to exclude certain devices, you can exclude that over here. And here is where you can select the scan configuration. So if you want to perform an authenticated scan on your systems, so authenticated scan would require credentials to be provided. Unauthenticated scan, on the other hand, is more of a black box or a non-credential scan, right? So it doesn't require credentials. Unauthenticated scan is a black box or black box sort of an assessment, external sort of a scan that happens on your device, which will give you a list of all your open ports, what services are running on those open ports, if there are any service level issue, there are any misconfigurations or vulnerabilities that we have identified with respect to your SSL certificates, uh, SSH protocols, or whatever versions are being used. So all of those details or all of those security issues would be highlighted as part of an authenticated scan. Authenticated scan, on the other hand, is more deeper level scan, right? That actually connects to your system, scans your OS for OS level vulnerabilities. It also scans your vendor install applications and libraries if there are any vulnerabilities to that. It scans for third-party application softwares installed on your systems, and if any vulnerabilities are present on those applications, would report you that as well. Besides that, vulnerabilities like Log4j, vulnerabilities like HTTP clickjacking is possible on some service hosted on your system. So all of those security issues would be highlighted by this authenticated scan. If you want to create this as a recurring policy, so that option is also available over here. Simply select this to run this as a recurring policy across your devices. Now, once these scans are performed, here is where you can get the scan jobs, right? So let's say if I want to get details regarding one job, right? So these are the devices that were scanned, right? If you want to quickly export this as a HTML, CSV, or JSON report, you can do that. Or if you want to get further more information regarding any one of these, this scan record, for example, this one, you can get those insights just by clicking on this. So here is where you can get an overview of critical issues identified, high rated issues, medium issues, low level issues that we have identified on your system. For any specific vulnerability, you can simply click on this and you can get further more details regarding that vulnerability. For example, this one is affecting Node.js installed on this particular device, right? So this is the path or the this is the location where this Node.js application is installed on this particular system. Evidence is provided, CVS score, CPR rating is provided as well. Going further, remediation steps to fix this particular security issue. So remediation steps are also provided over here, right? Summary of this issue, references, so all of these details regarding these vulnerabilities would be provided here as well. Now coming to prioritization. So in terms of prioritization, the product does a great job. So not only it provides you CVSS rating which the industry typically uses for prioritizing vulnerabilities, but it also has this interesting score called a CPR score or context prioritization rating, right? So you can use this for better prioritization, better and effective prioritization in your environment. Now, how this works is, so CPR is context prioritization rating. So this not only includes CVSS, which has the impact factor of that particular vulnerability, but it also includes EPSS, which gives you the probability or the likelihood that this vulnerability would be exploited in the next 30 days. So the exploitation probability that is missing with CVSS is counted with EPSS, and we also have CSAC which essentially flags if this vulnerability is there any known reported instance of this vulnerability ever getting exploited across the globe, right? So CSAC is also provided. So using this CPR score, you can prioritize your vulnerabilities or security issues in a better manner. As you can see, a couple of high rated vulnerabilities have greater CPR rating than the critical ones, right? So this means that these high rated security issues are more susceptible to exploitation and should be fixed first, as against these critical ones. From overview, you can get details regarding what security issues or security updates are missing on your system, vulnerable Microsoft applications, vulnerable third-party softwares, right, that are present on your system. So these are the softwares which have some sort of vulnerabilities that is sitting on this particular device. Coming to Log4j vulnerabilities. So what Log4j vulnerabilities have we found on this particular device? And lastly, the attack surface, right? So this will give you a list of all open ports, the services that are running on those open ports, and if at all there are issues with respect to the services that are running on those open ports. For example, if SMB signing related issues are there or SSL related issues are there, you can get those insights right from here. Now, as we had a global patches section in patch management, on the similar lines, we have global vulnerability section over here. So this gives you a global view to track all your security issues across all your systems, right? Track which are already closed or patched, which are the ones that are still open. Get details regarding these security issues, right? And get it in the form of reports, or use the filters to narrow down the scope of analysis to a specific group of devices or specific device, or let's say just critical high and medium rated ones I need to understand, or based on compliances, whether it's already exploited in the wild, whether there's a patch available for this device or not, and further filters could be used as well. Now, that was a quick view of vulnerability management and scanning, and how you can prioritize your vulnerabilities, get the reports as well, right? Now, in the next 5 minutes, I'll quickly give you a quick walkthrough of configuration audit. So, this configuration audit module or product essentially helps you to perform audits on your systems based on global compliances. For example, CIS is one of the major compliances that has a lot of controls, right, for different operating systems and applications and devices. You can get perform audits on those devices just by selecting those devices and selecting an audit profile over here. For example, for my Windows Server 2022, I want to perform, which is a domain controller, I want to perform these CIS profiles. I want to audit, right? I can do that. Or for my network devices, if let's say I want to just upload the configuration file and I want to assess those devices, I can do that too. Now, for any of these devices, if you want to get further more, further more details regarding what checks were performed, what audits were performed, what profiles were selected as part of this audit, you can get those details, a quick summary of what checks were performed, total past checks, failed ones, right? And for any specific profile, if you want to get further more information regarding that check, you can get those details right from here, right? For example, the summary of what this check exactly is or what this control exactly is. If this is not fixed on your system, what could be its impact, right? And more importantly, the evidence why we have flagged this on your system, and how do you go ahead and fix this particular security misconfiguration on your system. So steps for terminal as well as GUI based or graphical method is also provided over here. And if you want to export this as a report, that option is also there. And if at all you want to create your own custom profile, right? So let's say your organization has certain controls against which you want to create your own profile and you want to assess your devices, you can do that too on the product. So that was the configuration audit product. And for all of these products that we have seen in this session, we have a dedicated reporting module as well. So we have a patch management, vulnerability management, and audit reports. You can target your devices for which you want to export this report, right? And you can get a summary report, a detailed report, detailed asset report, or a report for open services and ports, exposed ones, or generate a custom report for your patches, right? Get a HTML report or a CSV report for all patches, let's say that got deployed in last month, something like that, or let's say all patches that are missing and are rated as critical and high on my devices, right? So you can use these filters to create your own custom report for you. And if you want to, automate this entire process of report generation as well, so you can create a reporting policy. For example, I want to get a weekly report for servers, weekly patch report for servers, for an example, right? So you can just simply set it to repeat weekly on Thursday, for an example. So every week on Thursday, this will automatically generate reports for missing patches that are rated as critical and high on your servers, and would share it with you over the email. So you can also specify if you want to share this report with a couple of team members and customers, you can also mention their email ID. The reports, once generated automatically, would be shared over the email as well. So yeah, that's a quick overview about the overall product and how it can help you to perform, vulnerability assessments, misconfiguration analysis, and more importantly, how you can fix those security issues on your systems using our patch management solution. So if anyone has any questions, we can take that now.